Hello, my fellow cigar smokers, and welcome to Smoker Spot. We are starting the vintage series, and of course, what else? We are starting with a Davidoff, and that is the famous Davidoff Maduro Magnum Asia Edition. Let's smoke that. So guys, that is the kickoff of the vintage series where I'm going to smoke and review cigars that are older than 10 years. That's my criteria for vintage cigar when it comes to this series, to this episodes. Guys, we're starting with really one of my favorite Davidoff cigars, where luckily I was able to get a couple of boxes over 10 years ago, and that is the Davidoff Maduro Magnum, and that's the Asia edition. Let me give you a few numbers and facts before we are starting. It's Magnum because they call it Magnum because it's a little bit bigger than the original Davidoff Maduro Robusto that was coming out, I don't know, 2007 or 8, not quite sure. And that the Davidoff Maduro, like the original Robusto, had a ring gauge of 52 and was 5 inches long. And the Maduro Magnum Asia edition, which was specifically, that's a tough word, Jesus Christ, specifically created for the Asian market, has also a ring gauge of 52, but is 5.3 inches long. Beautiful, beautiful dark wrapper. The wrapper is coming from Nicaragua. Binder and filler, Dominican Republic. In the original Davidoff Maduro, they also had a Nicaraguan wrapper, but binder was coming from the Dominican Republic, filler was coming from the Dominican Republic and Nicaragua. Yeah, and you know what, guys, before I'm talking too much about that cigar, let me smoke it. Let me smoke it. Wow, guys, that cold draw, roasted coffee flavors, cocoa, and the smell, a little bit of like charred oak. That is a smell and a cold draw that really makes you want to smoke that stick. They only brought out 800 boxes with 10 cigars each. I mean, you know, Davidoff, that's not a whole lot. And since it was crafted specifically for the Asian market, only 100 boxes were delivered outside of Asia. So here in Germany, man, I don't know, we probably had like 20 boxes, maybe, and I got 3 of them back then. It was coming out 2011, end of 2011. So 11 years old. And since then, that stick was laying in my humidor. Actually, I have this one that I'm smoking right now, and I have one more that's still laying in my humidor. That's the last ones. Then they are like gone forever. No more Davidoff Maduro Magnum Asia Edition. And no chance that you will find one, because really they're such a limited quantity, they're probably all gone for years by now. So we really have to enjoy that one. Guys, I loved it back then. That was like before Davidoff brought out the Discovery series, you know, whereas the Nicaragua, the Escurio, the Amasa that are in there. Before that, we only had like mostly mild cigars, you know, because Davidoff is known for doing mild cigars, especially back then, like 10 years ago, or even longer than that. And then they were bringing out that Maduro edition, and I was like, great, man, that was the cigar I was looking for back then, you know, because I loved the quality of Davidoff and the flavors that the cigar had, but it was always a little bit too mild for me. And then they were coming out with that Maduro series, and I was like, great. And I loved that whole series. It's such a pity that they stopped doing that, though. They ceased the whole line. And then just a year later or so, two years later, they were coming out with this Asia edition, which had a little bit even more spice to it, just a pinch. And man, I was instantly falling in love with that cigar. Heavy and rich smoke output, perfect draw. Right at the beginning, the cigar is giving you just a little bit of pepper, a little bit of that black pepper, just enough to make like your lips tingle a little bit, you know, and the tip of your tongue, and that's it. And like in the first third, right now, you have exactly the flavors that you were able to get when the cigar was not lit. Like you have that sweetness, you have that roasted coffee, and you have a little bit of that oak. Very, very, very finely combined to like a very creamy experience. Price was a joke if you compare it to Davidoff price right now, because that stick was 18 euros and 50 cents. Ridiculous. If you compare it, like, see the Year of the Tiger, holy shit, 39 euros, and it's even smaller. But it was back then a little bit more expensive than the original Maduro edition. The Robusto was, if I remember right, 17 euros something. So more or less a euro expensive, more expensive than the original edition. But as I said, man, compared to today Davidoff prices, and it's like you want to cry. You know, on one hand, it's like sad when you're smoking the last cigars you have from one series, especially when you know that it will be gone forever. On the other hand, it's such an enjoyable experience, and after all, that's what cigars are made for, being smoked, right? I mean, I'm saying that also I have like literally thousands of cigars like sitting in my humidor collecting and stuff. But I'm really, if I told myself like one thing is smoke more cigars. And I need to smoke more cigars. I mean, not like quantity wise, but I need to smoke more cigars that I'm actually buying, you know. I'm buying cigars and I'm putting in my humidor. Man, I need to buy cigars in order to smoke it, you know. I'm not saying I've stopped collecting, but there's always a limit, you know, when it's going too far. Share good cigars, valuable moments with your friends. Guys, let me smoke that for a while. Let me sit here, cry a little bit about that stick, enjoy it, and then I'm coming back and give you like my final thoughts on it, and maybe I have one or two more Davidoff stories in my pocket. So guys, location change. For the last few parts, for the last third, I had to leave the lounge because all of a sudden it got really packed. Like 5 or 6 people were coming in, so you couldn't record any longer. It was so loud, people were talking, and after all, it's not very polite to sitting in the lounge and keep on recording my shit when other people want to enjoy their cigars. So outside in Frankfurt here, just give you the last. Give me the last thoughts on that vintage 6. Guys, it was such a pleasure to smoke that that Asia edition again. A lot of changes were going on, really. Some nut were adding up to that sweetness and stuff. So create complexity and all these years in the humidor, frankly, it's not gotten any better. I was smoking the last one like 2 years ago, and of course you cannot remember all the exact like flavors and stuff, but it's a very good cigar, especially if you're thinking about the price it had once, but it was not getting any better. Like, I still remember like when I bought it, it was excellent, and then after a year or so it got even better, but after that it's like that's it. But that brings me to another idea I want to do, and was also a suggestion. I want to make like an episode about aging. What can you expect? What is it doing to the cigar? Does it make any sense? Stuff like this. That's also a new thing that I want to do. So, but as a summary, guys, that was a great vintage stick, and I think that was a good cigar to kick off that vintage series. I have like easily like 10 or 15 more sticks that I have lined up that I want to cover in that vintage section. If you have any ideas, like a stick that you want me to smoke, and maybe I have it, then I will do that too. Just let me know. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the new vintage series. I hope you can enjoy a good cigar. If you have any vintage sticks, smoke them. Enjoy life. Most importantly, stay safe and stay healthy. And I hope to see you around the Smoker Spot the next time in my lounge or in the Davidoff Flagship Store lounge again. But after all, Frankfurt is nice. Cheers, guys.